approved the preliminary financing plan for the 3 capital projects that the EDC is proposing. El Tula is one, the recreational center, the resource center, and Capable Kids. We got some preliminary budget amounts, and we have some preliminary concepts that I wanted the board to introduce to the board so they can have their input, because when we do our final plan for financing, we have to whittle down these budgets to the right price that we're wanting to go out and borrow that money exactly. So I wanted to introduce Mr. Vela to the board. He did make a presentation months back to our EDC board on this, and I wanted him to go over the project and budget, and then take questions from the board to see how we can reduce some of the cost in this, because we want to be sure that this is what we're going to borrow and on to the future. Mr. Vela? Can you all hear us back there?
Thank you, Mr. Trevino.
Yes.
I'm Eduardo Vela, VGV Architect. With me is Alejandra Mina, Rebecca Cunha, Ramiro Ramos, and Yahaira Davila in the back. I'm just going to start off with showing you pretty much the same PowerPoint presentation that we did last time when we were here. I want to say September or October, something like that. And does it show up on the computer, Joe?
Coming up. We do have copies, Mr.
Oh, you do have copies? Okay, never mind. If that's the case, I'm just going to go over a little bit on the, actually we did it in August. It is a proposed 3 basketball courts with an entrance, neutral entrance that you could access any of the courts, proposed parking, and proposed access pavilion and some playground equipment. Having said that, the center court is fully equipped with bleachers on both sides. The 2 side ones have bleachers on one side only at this point. As you enter the building, you go into the foyer, but you could go into any of the 3 basketball courts without interruption of any activity going on at the other court. Mr. Trevino had asked us to do a preliminary cost estimate. This is what we call we're at approximately the design development in the contract, which is way before the step before the construction documents or the blueprints. Having said that, we included numbers based. We don't have a complete set of drawings at this point. We have schematics. And this is our best estimate at this level. Part of the estimate that we had, obviously, we had some outdoor area and the parking lot, and of course, I was asked to include the geotech and the materials testing, which we put a budget allowance toward the bottom of it. So we're just adding those numbers as we go. They are, I believe, Joey.
Yes,
there's
the
a
colored
one. Joey has a better looking one. We were estimating with fees, with everything, at $5.5 million or $5.6 million at this point. The current cost of construction approximately is, give or take, about $215 a square foot. In talking to our civil engineer, Mr. Quintanilla, he gave me some rough estimates on what they're proposing to do and what the city of Edinburg planning department and building department are requesting of this particular project. One of them is, obviously, we're going to have to start off. I'm going to start off with the very beginning of it. We have to find out, first of all, for the sewer, water, drainage, access to the building, for existing conditions. It has quite a few trees that we might want to leave along the perimeter. We're trying to avoid, having to replant things. But more so, he also has to kind of do what I call a mini subdivision, re-subdivide the property, because we erased what was there and coming in with the new requirements of today instead of 30, 40 years ago when that other building was there. The requirements are quite light, but those are the things that go into what I call the design development. This is at this stage, our estimate at this stage. When we go into the next level of design, which we now can incorporate a few other and more detailed information from our consultants, such as a structural engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, we might be able to whittle some of the cost down and or appropriate it a little bit different. Mr. Trevino and I talked on, and you might want to touch base on the site work, Mr. Trevino. Okay.
On the site work?
Yes, correct.
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Can.
Hold on, Joey,
Okay,
just real
yes,
quick,
sir.
for the record, we do have Farias joining us. Mike Farias walked in 12:04, and we did have our Parks and Rec Director, Javier Garza, with us. He was here when we started. Coach, sorry for not recognizing you. Okay, go ahead, Joey. Sorry
Yes,
about
sir. On the site work, I did talk to Mr. Quintanilla, and he indicated that there's some major utility lines going through the property right now that, as it's situated now, we may have to relocate it, or we have to maybe do flip this site plan over to alleviate some of that construction there. Yes, sir. Some utilities that there. So.
And that goes hand in hand with the design development. I'm getting their input to mitigate some of the cost. Instead of running the line 200 feet, maybe we run it only 100 feet, okay? So therefore, the cost, some of the cost of utilities, parking access might be mitigated and or reduced from what I was thinking initially. The scope of the work is a building, standalone, approximately 24,000 square feet, approximately 608 seats combined. We do have an outdoor pavilion within the scope. Parking spaces, we have 126 scheduled right now, but that goes hand in hand with what we might discuss with the city of Edinburg. We might be able to mitigate some of those and or use other means to fund some of the parking. We considered what does a building program have, and I think we gave you a copy. 3 basketball courts. It has men's, women's restroom, a janitor, a storage, mechanical concession, and foyer. We're attempting to design this building to where you could use it on a court basis instead of having to turn on all the ACs. You turn it. You'll say you use only the middle one. You concentrate on the air conditioning, and the other one you just either raise the temperature, lower the temperature, whatever you need to, so you don't have to have all the units running all the time. They might also go on a control system that might mitigate some cost in terms of function at the end of the day. The site design, we have playground area. That's other areas that with the Parks Department, we would want to know how much to incur and design into the parks portion of it. Outdoor basketball, and of course we have some picnic areas. Okay? And of course the quantity of these might go up and down with the budget itself. And that pretty much constitutes the
So now he's gone over the overview of the project. I guess the concern is, we have a pretty large amount of money here that's proposed on the preliminary budget. I know the board is excited about the project. We want to get it done, but I think they want to do it more efficiently and discuss some of the things that we may have to delete or add or whatnot in order to accomplish what our goal is, and I think probably much 30% of this total cost and total cost of all the projects that we're trying to bring down. 30% of the total. And the preliminary financing plan, the financial advisor's advice is we can, our capability is to borrow, we can borrow that $10 million, and the whole issuance with sources and uses will be $11 million, and we will still have that, the ability to, it's going to be about $800,000 payment every year if we go out to borrow that. And I believe the concern of the board was if we really go out and borrow that whole 10 million, what is our capacity in the future for different incentive projects that may come in the future? So, you know, one of the ideas was to come and bring the projects before you guys to have the input on what you want to see out there and develop a design that's going to be, you know, a little bit cheaper for us to accomplish and also have, you know, a little room in the future to borrow additional monies.
Mr. Vela, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that, maybe it was discussed earlier, but I was here. The walls that separate the gymnasiums, are they brick walls or are they the kind of walls?
They are solid,
Solid wall?
block walls, correct.
Okay, and I think, how many levels are in each of the seats?
We had 1, 2, 3, 4,
4 levels?
right, of each seat. And like I said, we're calculating the middle, you have bleachers on both sides. The two side ones, we put them on one side, but again, depending on budget, and/or we might be able to either leave the floor space, that might be one item of consideration, and buy the bleachers on some of these separate, or just equip the middle. But that goes with the discussion as we get further into the contract, into the design development and design of the building.
So you're looking at bleachers on these sides or on this? What are you looking at?
I'm sorry. Okay, this is the court.
Right?
Now, this is a bleacher and this is a bleacher.
Okay.
The dark area, and then this is a bleacher and that's a bleacher. It's only one side and one side.
So they're back to the wall?
That's correct.
Pretty much.
That's correct. They're back to back on the middle court. The middle court obviously has the most capability. If you notice, the side aisle or the side on the opposite side of the bleachers is a little bit more narrow. So we want to leave on the two courts. We want to leave for future. We might need to move the wall outward a little bit. So we've already squeezed the building in as if not being included. And I need to make you aware of that because if the desire is to make it available for future, that all of them have both sides, we need to adjust it.
And for the record, these are all official size courts.
That is correct.
I mean, this is our, yes, sir.
Yeah, they're the official, and the volleyball as well.
And volleyball also.
Now, the height, the same thing, we went by the volleyball height, which governs that's the most drastic of the two sports. Having said that, basketball is not quite as drastic, but that's what's driving, if you were to have that volleyball in there, okay? Which obviously we want.
Yes.
We have capabilities, and this is just a simple matter of putting additional sleeves. And I know Mr. Enriquez has done it even at the elementaries. We put the primary volleyball court, but then say you want to have some practices or whatever, you do it the other way around, but it's not a full court at that point. It's just, you're able to do 2 courts per basketball, so you have a total of 6 available, say, for practice or something like that.
Not game regulation.
That's correct.
What about the issue that we have at the Vipers facility where you got 3 games going on, the whistles from one game interfere with the other? Are these walls gonna?
These walls should be a lot better than that one. I
That should
visited. Pardon?
I should be, will
Will be, because
Because you will have partitions for
Yeah, that's correct.
stand in them and
They are non-functional partitions. They're going to be, we're scheduling block walls. And the block wall will be all the way down up to the deck, insulated. So if you do hear a little bit, it'll be very minor, maybe through the door when they each open the door, but not enough to, we've done it in the past, it's not enough to be heard like a curtain in this case.
You had also mentioned flooring, types of flooring that you've researched or done in the past.
That's correct.
Did you want to elaborate on that?
Okay, we do maple floors, okay, on basketball and volleyball. But there's grade A or grade 1, and grade 2, and grade 3. In my opinion, the grade 3 is probably the best looking because it gives you more of a wood look to it rather than the grade A1, which is all like a neutral pale color of a butcher block. This one gives you more of a wood texture to it, So therefore, I showed Mr. Trevino a couple of photographs of, we did LBJ Middle School, we did it with grade 3. As far as performance, there's no difference. Aesthetically, in my opinion, it does look better. You're paying maybe a third of the difference in the cost. The wood is just more selective of the grade 1, okay?
What do we have currently, Coach? Do you know by any chance what we got out there?
No, I haven't.
I didn't pay attention to it.
You talked about LBJ Middle School in FAR.
In far correct.
That's a nice park.
Yeah, and performance-wise, you cannot tell the difference. Wood, it just looks more like a wood floor, more like a playing surface than the smooth, I'm gonna call it pale-looking maple because they selected to have no grain to it. The pieces are all the same size, and that's what drives up the cost.
I see that.
They're being very selective with the pieces of which ones go into grade number 1. Grade 3, the pieces might be of different lengths, but again, nothing that precludes the performance and or the bounce of the floor. It all performs the same.
One thing that I noticed on the layout is that you can't go from court to court. You need to come out through the hallway. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and and in order to get from court 1 to court 3, you have to go through court 2. Is that correct?
No,
No. It's
you
all
go
through.
into the lobby area
Okay,
and
because
use
there's a
that
wall.
as a common corridor.
Okay, okay, because I see a wall there, right in front of the foyer. There's a wall there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of misleading, but yes, you would have to come up into the foyer and then either into the main court or the third court. If you're number 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, whichever.
No, well, that's my point. You got to go through court 2.
No.
No, you don't.
He'll come out.
No,
Okay.
not
He'll
at
come
all.
out to the
You-
What is that wall right there that he's talking about? Right there where
I
it's,
would have to,
That's not a wall, that's,
what is it?
It's, the-
talking about this one?
Yeah, that little line right there.
That's the-
No, this one right here.
This one right here, sir.
Oh, that's a concession, that separates the
the
concession.
route is,
That wall separates the
that's your
concession.
route.
Okay, I
There-
apologize.
there's no wall
Basically, what
here,
you'll be able to
nor
do
here.
is from
This is
court
why-
1, you'll be
That's
able to
what I get
access
for not
court
bringing my
2.
glasses.
No, it's a-
And from court 2, you'll be able to access court 3. But
Yeah, I
the-
see it.
But the purpose of,
Here, Mike.
I would think that the purpose of doing it this way, designing it this way is so, and the people that have been involved in the Parks and Rec know this, that at the current facility, you're not able to access each court without going through the main court, and you're disrupting either practice or the game, and it's not conducive to Coach Garza and his staff because they have to monitor, make sure people aren't going into the main court. Here, you're going to isolate each court. So the public that wants to go and watch a game, well, they're going to go into the main court, and they're just going to walk straight to the bleachers. They don't have to cross the court. The only people that are going to be crossing the court are the players and the coaches getting to their side of the bench.
That's a lot better.
But that's it. The public is just going to go in the main door and go straight to the
That also goes, Mr. Enriquez,
Oh,
to
there's a door there?
sound control. Because you're not opening a door or an opening directly between
That's
the
what
courts,
threw me off. I
any
thought
given
that was
court.
a wall.
You have, the door that is open directly into the lobby, and that has to close before you get to the other court. Okay? So therefore, unless they have both of them open, it's real difficult for sound to travel in a U shape. Okay? You might hear a little bit of the other court through the doors when they open them, or,
You're not going to hear what you hear right
no,
now.
correct, or people talking in the lobby.
Right, Coach?
Okay.
Right. What about the echo on each court?
That we have to address. We will have to address, correct. We would have to either do a soundboard on the wall or a series of banners between the structure members. That helps a lot. In saying that, correct, you bring up a good point. We have to soften some of these walls a little bit. Okay? That's part of the given.
Part of the whole scope.
So it's in here already?
Yes, yeah, we'll put some, what we call sound attenuation. It might not be 100%, so coach, you might need to put additional banners for competition of some sort, you know. That, the mere thing that you, if you hang a banner, that's gonna break the sound.
And your roof, your
And
deck will have,
deck.
your deck will have also sound absorption
That's correct.
panels or whatever. Like right now, we don't have that, Coach. That's why you hear everything.
At LBJ, for lack of a better description, if you go to the airport in McAllen, you see the perforated deck. That's what we used at the LBJ campus. It has built-in insulation, so therefore from down here, you could hit the deck with a basketball and nothing will happen. You're hitting the metal. You're not hitting insulation at that point, but you do get a sound attenuation to a good degree of that. But the walls do have to be addressed. The middle court, just by the mere fact that you have the bleachers, will be more sound attenuated because you're breaking the rhythm or the bounce of the sound, correct. If it had taller bleachers, it would be even better, okay?
So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. I like the fact that you mentioned about the court. The reason we're here, we love the design, but we can't afford it. We have to do something cheaper. So what I want you to start telling us, and you already did with the court, is where can we cut to get the best building that we can afford for the community?
And that's what we're here for.
Right, right.
We're here to bring you a building of your desire, of your scope, more so sticking to the scope of the work that we described here. Because the instructions that we had were 3 courts. So we need to figure, as architects, engineers, and the administration in conjunction. Right now, we gave you a preliminary estimate on the design development. We still got to go to the next phase and therefore whittle some of these things down. And there, I might need to ask, what do you want this budget at? So we could determine what to cut off and/or.
Yeah, one thing, going through this and contemplating some of this stuff, the outdoor areas, we've talked about the picnic canopy areas, the playground. I don't know if that's something we can approach the city to help us do on that and encouraging it, and just the EDC project concentrate on the building itself and some of the civil site work or even combining forces with the city to help us pay for that.
We've done that in the past, that we coordinate either with the city. The design for the parking lot will be there. The elevations, the dimensions, the drainage, it'll all be there. So whether we could contact the city officials and determine maybe that part of the parking could be done with that. Or maybe they want to help with purchasing the playground equipment, for example. And that goes away. Right now, we have approximately in the site improvements, we have 400,000 in there allocated. If we could mitigate some of those costs and/or different funding, Coach, that might be, and that goes with Mr. Trevino, we might be able to mitigate some of those costs.
Let me ask you something. I'm not a construction specialist or guru or anything like that. One of the things that I talked to Word about, and I had mentioned to Joey, I also mentioned it to several other people, is entertaining the idea of maybe making this out of a steel building, just so to cut costs if we didn't want to give any leeway and lose any basketball gymnasiums. Some of the design, just on a simple observation, is this Dollar General design. Kind of, I seen the concept, right, where it's this large building, tons of square footage. And all we're trying to do is we're trying to say, okay, I mean, I think we have, the old saying is, you have champagne taste with beer money, right? And that's where we're at. We're trying to cut the cost to try to figure out how do we provide the same type of services to our community, but maybe with some direction from you or some advice from you to say, okay, maybe we can make this structure out of something else to try to cut those costs. That's what we're looking at doing.
That's correct. And that's what I mentioned earlier. That's our job. But to answer your question, a simple warehouse building, we're mimicking the structure but not the cladding in this case, okay? The structure, we're mimicking that of a warehouse, okay? The main structure. We're taking advantage of that portion of it. With the new code, a warehouse is very difficult to accomplish for the air infiltration and/or loss of air conditioning when you start putting air conditioning into some of these buildings. Therefore, when you start trying to seal a warehouse, it gets up in cost really quick. Because if you keep it as a warehouse, no problem. But the moment you try to adapt it to something with a wood floor or something of that nature, the cost goes up. That's why we're trying to do a hybrid of the two, okay, in this particular case. I hope that answers your question. Saving in dollars on a rigid frame, but having the capability of sealing the building to today's code, okay? That is a big issue that we've been running across in the past. How do we seal a building to avoid the loss of air conditioning? Metal building with the mere fact that it has metal, and that's the only thing holding the air out, in essence. You have some insulation. You have a lot of air loss, air pressure otherwise in the building. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Mr. Enriquez knows, I think that the new code is going to require that we pressurize the building entirely. The roof, the same thing. We're trying to eliminate metal roof itself, but going with a membrane roof to where you don't have any joints that might have air infiltration or air loss at that point. Okay. Oh, and again, I hope that answers your question, but that's part of our what we're trying to do with staff. But I will inform staff a little better as to what we're doing with the structure itself.
So what is I understand the metal building, the steel pillars, and but as far as, is it cinder block with
That's
some
correct.
sort of fascia, or is it just cinder block painted?
Right now, we have, okay, I'm going to go a little bit into structural wind loads and things of that nature.
Okay.
If we were to do a stucco building, for example, or even a metal building, the wind loads, we would have to upgrade the columns to take up most of the wind load. But because we are doing block, we could mitigate some of the steel cost, okay, and make the structural members a little bit smaller, okay? Because the mere fact that we have a wall that we attach to the building protects it from the wind loads that are being requested as today's standards. Just imagine that the building is standing up and it wants to be pushed down by any given wind. That's the advantage of the block wall.
So I know it's more expensive to do tilt wall than to do block, but would the savings be, would we save on the steel?
In this particular case, because of the height of the walls, it might, although tilt wall is traditionally more or less expensive, because of the height of the walls, we need to have approximately 24 feet at the low end for volleyball. It might even be a little more cost prohibitive to raise. We've done it in the past, but to get a bigger, you need a bigger crane, you need, and then we have to have the installation factor.
And then also you have to have a bigger foundation to support the weight of the tilt wall, which is more.
If we are at a smaller building, no problem. We might even do the exterior walls load bearing at that point and take advantage of the tilt wall. But that's part of the options. We haven't gotten quite that far, and we will discuss it with a structural engineer, with staff, which structure at the end based on the given criteria, and then we will put all that given cost.
Can you explain to me what material testing is?
Material testing is in the construction phase of the project. The contractor's going to order, I'm going to say 50 trucks of concrete, for example. And we, in the specs, have the testing lab on site, coordinated with the contractor. We have the specification. The testing lab is strictly working to test the materials. They do not work for the contractor, do not work for the architect, they strictly work for, in this case, the city of Edinburg, okay? They take samples, okay? In the case of concrete, you test it in 7 days, and it gives you a primary idea of if it's gonna break to the desired strength. At that point, should give you approximately 70% of the compressive strength. If the numbers come in marginal, you wait for 28 days, and then if not, you still wait. But that's a materials testing. Same thing with the what I'm going to call the concrete pad, for example, where you build your foundation. We're going to remove some dirt, come back, and they tell us the testing lab, in conjunction with the geotech lab, tells us what kind of soil to put underneath the slab or the foundation to keep it from moving, because we have such a large building. They'll give us the caliche, how much caliche based on the amount of cars and the use. They'll give us the thickness of the asphalt, and they test all that.
I just thought the engineer would do all of that.
No, this testing lab completely works. The engineer we might go out there, but we don't have the tools that the testing lab that does this.
Okay.
The testing labs, that's all they do. They go and test it, and then they give you a report. Okay. And if the report says it didn't pass, at that point we put the burden on the contractor.
So I guess we'll go out, Joey, and solicit bids on this?
Yes.
For the contractor?
Yes, sir. That's a sealed proposals, as we had indicated initially.
Mr. Trevino will give us the grading criteria or the ranking criteria. For example, so many points for this criteria, so many points for the price, so many points for the day, and or the experience in building such a facility. And the ranking will be done by individuals such as Mr. Trevino, probably coach, one or two members of the EDC, and pretty much it's a foolproof method of selection of a contractor based on point system.
You know, I'm personally familiar with this. I've helped with a 28,000 square foot building out there in Richardson, and it has 3 basketball courts, and it has the whole, but we went tilt wall, we went 36 feet high. So I am familiar a little bit with that. I wasn't the contractor or anything of that nature, but I know that we can tweak this so we can get the better bang for our buck. And I always bring up a fact. In 2012, Sherryland built a 345,000 square foot high school for $41.1 million a square foot, which came out to $114 a square foot. And that wasn't just a gym. That was cafeteria, that was classrooms, that was a lot of stuff. And I understand inflation, 6%, over a period of 7 years comes out to $178 a square foot. But it's less than what you're proposing here. And I just want to make sure, and that's not an all-steel building. That was cinder block with brick veneer. So I just want to make sure that we get the best bang for our buck here, and I'm going to be real tight when it comes to stuff like this, just because of the things that I've been involved with, and because of the things that have been built. I understand there's some new requirements since 2012. I'm aware of those things also. And I'm aware that when we built the other building was not in the city, and there's different guidelines. I take all of that into consideration. I just want to make sure that we don't get comfortable with a set amount, but that we need to go out there so we can be good stewards to our constituents, because this is their money, and to make sure that we get a good quality building, not just for the first 2 years, but something that will last, because this is something that's going to be used every single day.
And that's a good point, Mr. Farias. We want to give you a little bit more, one aesthetically looking building than a metal building. although we could do things with metal that hadn't been done in the past, we will continue looking at different structures, including tilt wall, okay? Because we had done several schools, Hidalgo High School gym is tilt wall. We did that one, okay? And that one has, I want to say 800 per side students, you know, okay, if I recall correctly. Has varsity, junior high, training rooms, et cetera, but we know our limitations as well, you know, and that's what we'll be looking as to who can construct this and how can they construct it. We will ask input from different contractors. We have the advantage that we have Mr. Enriquez, who has quite a bit of experience in construction.
And he's a real stickler too, which I like.
Correct.
He
So-
doesn't like fees, he doesn't like mid.
Oh, yeah, we prefer for us to do it for
Unless it's for econ.
but
We're just setting it up because he's going to get you right now on that podium about your fees. I'm just waiting for it.
okay, that sounds good. We plugged in numbers so that to make you aware that there's cost there for geotech. I think it was Mr. Farias that asked, what does the testing lab do? What does the geotech do? All those entities are primarily hired directly by the whatever be
The city or the EDC.
or school district. The civil engineers normally hired directly also, but we have a cost in there for them. We normally get ahead of time an existing condition survey. We know where the water, at this point, we're having to wait for Mr. Quintanilla. But nonetheless, he has some institutional knowledge of the area. So that he's given us this ahead of time so that the mere fact that we might flip the site plan might help us quite a bit in the details. But going back to your cost savings, all those, we start off with those two premises. First of all, the location. Where is it located with respect to sewer and water? How do we get in and out of the property most efficiently to avoid a big ramp of going in, high cost parking lots, etc. Try to mitigate those. If we have to change the site plan, this is a preliminary that he looked at. I haven't gotten his input yet, okay, nor the structural engineer, okay, at this point. This is strictly, like I said, the design development. We still have to take it a couple of steps and kick it around, no pun intended, kick the ball around in the court to make sure that we're getting the best structural, the best air conditioner system, and the best location for utilities.
And I want to stress something else, Ms. Vela, is also the maintenance and operations in the future, because this is a long-term building. The city is going to be having to pay the electricity, the air conditioning, and things, and maintenance and upkeep of the building, so we need to make sure it's built correctly.
And trust me, I've been around doing buildings 27 years on my own, and another about 8 to 10 years with another firm. And what we were doing 28 years ago, we learned, not to do certain things, okay? And I'm glad to say we're still around, and we will be around for quite a bit of time. We're a local firm. We want to give you a good product at the end.
Let's help Mr. Vela here a little bit. We're all clear, there's 3 courts. Are we all good with that?
Yes.
I like the design, I
Okay.
just want to make sure that the group, we're with three courts, that's our goal, the most courts we can get.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just so you know too, yeah.
Yes, that's the primary scope. That's probably our biggest. Our next item that we have to investigate.
What would be the difference between 2 courts and 3 courts?
Approximately 1/3 of the cost. Give or take a little less, because we still have the infrastructure to go with it. We still have the sewer, we still have the water, we still have most of the parking. We have what we call the mobilization of a contractor. So to do another court, it's less than if you were not to do it, okay? I would say let's shoot for the 3 courts. If we cannot get it for whatever reason, before we even go out for bids, we'll get you that information. But more so, we'll put other items under alternates for control measures of cost. We might even put the parking lot, and depending on what we discuss with the city, we might even put it, if they could help with either materials, labor, or both. We might even say, okay, that cost might be zero, to the EDC. But I had to separate it to allow a cost in there. And again, I'm gonna have to verify the cost of the civil work with Mr. Quintanilla at this point.
Are these sidewalks 3, 4, 6 feet wide, the ones that go around the perimeter?
I think we put 6 feet, Yahaira, right? The sidewalk? By the way, Yahaira's and Alejandra are our lead designers on this building.
There wouldn't be...
like to say-
Go ahead. Would there be any advantage to have the pavilion closer to the main foundation?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there any advantage to have the pavilion right next to the main foundation?
It depends on the,
No, I'm just talking,
Right.
no, cost savings wise.
No, not really.
No, okay.
You could build it anywhere on the
All
site.
right.
And I'm thinking maybe that's a phase project that can happen in the future. We can take that.
Right now,
we're
what you're
talking-
seeing is pretty much a master plan. If we can't afford the whole thing, well, okay, we will whittle down a little bit, but as Mr. Trevino says, that might be one of the items. How many picnic areas? Instead of, I'm just gonna throw a number, instead of 5, we might get 3. Sidewalks, there's a limit of the width, but if you go 3 foot, you have to have what we call a little pancita every so often for turnaround for handicap accessibility. Okay, so we might build in those instead. That might be less expensive to do than a 6-foot sidewalk all the way through. The advantage of a 6-foot sidewalk is that people could walk side by side, and you could have 4 persons, kind of walk.
Yeah.
And, you could be talking while doing your exercise without trying to squeeze over, and the people will thank you on that one.
I'd just like to say, Mr. President, may I have a...
Yes, of course.
I'd just like to say that the need for 3 courts is there. And Mr. Garza can attest to this because he's been there already for a year, and he sees the number of teams that we've had. We don't even have facilities to practice. So you have a lot of our kids that aren't able to practice the 2 or 3 times a week that they should be practicing because there's no availability of facilities. So I think the only way to reduce the cost, if that's going to be a main focal point of this project, is to reduce the cost. In my opinion, the only way you're going to reduce the cost is to reduce the square footage. Therefore, if you reduce the square footage, you reduce the number of basketball courts. You can definitely go in and build a warehouse with concrete floor and 2 or 6 portable basketball goals, and with partitions like we have at the Viper facility right now, but you're going to be back at square one. You're going to have the same issues. Coach is going to have issues. It's just not going to be conducive to for the kids to be playing, and in that sense, you'll save money. You'll save a lot of money. You can probably build it for $100 a square foot. But the point being is that what's happening in Edinburg? Is that what we want to happen in Edinburg? Is that the type of facility? Is that the type of aesthetics that we want in our city? If the authority says yes, then let's do it. Because you can get a lot more.
Gilbert, it's because you grew up in the 90s. There was no air conditioning.
What's that?
It's because he played basketball in the 90s. There was no air conditioning in the gyms.
All I'm saying is that the reduction in square footage is probably going to be the only way to get it down to the cost that you want. And trust me, I've been doing this for 22 years, and every owner, every client that we've had is always about the cost. But it always comes down to, okay, what are you, the owner, willing to accept as a building, as a facade, as an aesthetics, as the functionality of the building? And it really is all contingent on what we give direction to him architect, because we can tell him we want to lower the cost as much as possible, but if we're telling him we want wood floor, and we want air conditioning, and we want three basketball courts with bleachers and concessions and all this other stuff, well, it's gonna be hard for him to get to that number that you're asking for, unless we give him just the bare bones minimum. That's what I'm saying. What I don't want, gentlemen, is to give him an unrealistic budget, and then we go out for bid, and then every single bid that comes in at what he estimated, and then that big gap is, we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? You know, we're not gonna look very smart if that's the case, and that's one of the things that I'm reluctant to give him or tell him, okay, this is the amount of money that we have, build it to meet that goal, because it's gonna be hard for him. It really is. It's gonna be hard for any architect, not just him, for any architect. And I just don't want him to be put at a disadvantage. And then when he's at the podium, I'm gonna chew him out, because we're
With that big gap.
Yeah, we're over budget, you know.
And in elaboration with Mr. Enriquez is saying, it's a political thing at the end of the day. People will say, is that what we got for what we're paying? If it looks okay, pretty, then there will be no criticism. But if it looks less than a warehouse, for example, I'm just going to, then you might get criticism from the general public. We paid for something, and that's what we're getting. It might not last. Mr. Enriquez, just for information, just recently, we're putting new roofs on existing buildings that were designed like a warehouse with metal roof, some school districts, actually there were 3 schools that were designed like a warehouse structure with metal roof. We're coming back and putting new roof on it because the metal roof was not conducive for long term in this particular case. It had too many leaks, too much air infiltration. I agree with Mr. Enriquez, we might as well do it right. Okay.
No, definitely.
Okay.
I like the 3 courts. I'm with the 3 courts. You're right. And nothing's changed since you took over, Javier? 'Cause we thought maybe it was management. No, we still need courts? Okay, good, because I know you're a hard worker, so we
Actually
need
need
courts.
more with the kids
He
that
would
we.
have asked Coach
Okay,
Parker,
yeah,
he said
I know
5.
he's getting it done, so we need courts. Okay, so I think it's gonna be exterior. You can, like, for
Yeah, correct.
example, there's a bunch of cooking spots here. It's beautiful for the design, but I know that area, all you need is probably 2. You know, there's a school, there's a park 3 blocks away where they're gonna go, barbecue or whatever.
What we did on this
Do
one. just
phases
hid
and all that,
The structure behind the facade, in essence. And it's, in essence, a square building, okay? Nothing.
But I'm talking
no-
about the
The
area,
other phases out
Oh,
on
okay.
outside
The
the
exterior.
park, the
Cut some
pavilion.
costs out there.
put
Yes,
some cost on the
correct.
exterior. in the-
I think that should be
Yeah.
future projects.
Maybe even
with the city.
playground, even though we don't want to.
Correct.
And maybe even, pavilion if we have to wait.
I think.
Just saying, because the problem is we need courts, and I agree with what you all are saying, that we need to do it right. Of course, we want to do it as cheap as possible.
Right.
But, and maybe the foyer area, maybe
I
we
mean,
can that a little bit.
and there's opportunity there. Future, we're gonna need 3 more courts. We can mirror that in 10, 15
And
years,
that might
you
be
know
the
what I mean?
case that you might need to add to it.
Because that is the biggest dilemma we're facing, courts, so we're good on that. So just so you can know what you can work around.
And we'll try to work out, now, all this was based on a couple of meetings with Mr. Trevino and just the general concept of a general scope. That's why we wrote the scope. It might meander a little bit one way or the other, but at the end of the day, we're looking at the same thing that you're asking right now. By tweaking the plan, how can we save some numbers? Can we save some distances on sewer lines? Can we save distances on the asphalt? Can we save anything that might, and still, therefore, if it's a savings by good planning, it goes back into the building, okay?
Mr. Can you elaborate on the current conditions, construction business, and how many contractors are out there? Are they hungry, they're needing work, or the cost?
Let's see, I had never seen this, and we were, as a matter of fact, I had a bid opening for a project that was $190,000, we had 12 bidders. Okay, there's very little work out there. Mr. Rodriguez, I don't know, you're,
Oh, I mean, look, right now, if you do it within the next 6 months, you're gonna at least have 10 bidders. If you do it within the next 6 months. So that, you'll know
that's correct.
what the competitive market is. I mean, you're not gonna get anything. You'll get probably one guy that's gonna be outrageously high, and you're probably gonna get another guy that's gonna be outrageously low. And that's gonna be our decision whether to give it to the low bidder or not. But right now, there is no bond issues that have passed. There's no major construction. This would be one of the major constructions out there. So you're gonna get a lot of bids, and you're gonna get a lot of good reputable contractors bidding on it, which is the plus.
That is correct. Right now, there's very little work out there. I monitor the Associated General Contractors list of projects. There's this past week that it came out, most of them are civil work. Some of them are in-house work by whomever, I'm going to just say like Harlingen ISD doing some air conditioner work. But there's very little major work of entire buildings. There's sewer lines, there's water lines, there's other things of civil, but not
Not new construction.
Not new construction, correct.
Very little.
Is this the final draft, or is this just?
No,
No, we're gonna be,
This is,
yeah, so we,
Because we need, to me, more storage room for sure. And then also maybe like a small office in the entrance in case in the future we decide to have some type of programs there.
and that's where you come in, Coach, okay?
Okay.
We haven't had the privilege of really sitting down with Coach as to his needs. We put something down. We made the foyer as little as possible, I'm gonna say, with the restrooms to try to mitigate the cost of additional square feet. But at that point, Coach is gonna come in and say, I need this, because it costs him a time and effort to bring materials from other places or store them somewhere else.
and in that instance, I've been concentrating on the financing plan, to bring a financing plan to the board. That way we can know where we can start from. And then that's why it's taken us so long to get to this point, to understand our financing and what, our capabilities in borrowing is. So now it's time to kind of get down and into the weeds of the construction of all these projects and bring them down to a good cost that we can borrow the money and do a great structures and great projects from now on.
Mr. President, if I could, in the women's restroom and the men's restroom, am I reading this correctly? With the women's restroom, it has sinks in the ADA restroom? Like it has a sink area?
Yes.
Okay, but in the men's, it doesn't?
Well, yeah, it does have it on the
It
men's.
doesn't, right?
Yeah,
Well, I would really like to see if you can go ahead and fit that in that way, because sometimes, we deal with kids with special needs, we deal with kids.
Oh, you're
that-
talking like an individual restroom?
Well, no, not individual. See how the women, in the women's restroom, I believe you have sinks in the commode area.
Yes, correct.
Okay, in the men's restroom, where the ADA restroom is, I don't see a sink in the men's.
There's two sinks right in front of the.
Yes,
one
no,
is-
no, but not within the stall.
He's talking inside the
Oh,
stall.
inside the stall, okay, never mind, okay.
Is that inside the women's?
No. That's
Okay.
within the room itself, but not within the stall.
Okay, no, yeah, I see the commode in the women's. I just thought that other thing was, is that a changing station then?
Yes, correct.
A bench.
We put a.
Okay.
What
Do we have
call a
that bench in the
gymnasium
men's? Yes. Okay, good.
Now is the time to start getting into the details of this,
Correct.
and this is very preliminary concepts.
I want to add something, Mr. Vela. Let me tell you what we hear, and it could be just Monday morning quarterback, but we get to the price of construction. For instance, there was a contractor that built this. Somebody come, how much you charge? Man, we could have done that for this price. Or like the Parks and Rec building. People have walked in there, how much did they charge you to do this? Oh, my God, there's a guy that did it for $75 a square foot down there, down the street, And I'm exaggerating on that price. But what I'm saying is, we want to make sure that we get the best bang for our buck. Yeah, we want 3 courts. We want 6 courts if we could have them.
Correct.
To look just like this. We just want to make sure that we're dotting our i's, crossing our t's. Nobody comes back and say, hey, you guys paid $215 a square foot? They did it for $114 over there. That's all we're trying to get at, and to make sure that we're giving you the proper direction. We want 3, we want 2, we want maybe add a 4th, add offices, add maintenance, whatever it is we're gonna need. And maybe we should start off with, this is our budget, Mr. Vela, and then have you, retweak it, tell us where we need to be at to be there, and maybe maybe we are gonna have to sacrifice some square footage.
Just don't say it out here in the open, man.
One way to get rid of the Monday morning quarterbacks is to invite them to the bidding process. Okay? If there's an AC person, plumber, local that you know of, we invite them, we give them the list of the general contractors bidding, concrete people, anybody's welcome. Okay? We give them the list of ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3 contractors or whatever names they might be, and they are welcome to provide prices during the bidding phase. That's the purpose of the bidding phase. Okay?
And then the power of the EDC
Right.
is they can also negotiate.
That is correct. Mhm.
Correct, Joey?
Yes,
Like, in other words, hey, guys, this is where we need to be at.
Yes, sir.
And we're setting the price, and we're being disciplined, and we're sticking by that number.
Yes,
Now,
sir. That's
if
different.
plumber ABC wants to give a price and say, I could give you a good price, oh, okay, come here. Before we start talking about anything, we got Mr. Trevino, we got Coach as a contractor, we got Mr. Farias as a contractor. Look at the plans and give them your best shot, because the contractor will pick up the prices from the plumbers and compare them. If they're not low, we'll know about it sooner or later. If that person is talking and saying, I could do it for less, but his price was number 5 instead of number 1 on the low list, they'll know ahead of time. Right. Yeah, and that's one way of controlling, I'm going to say, el chisme, okay, or something of that nature. We'll never win, okay? We'll never win that, but at least we try to invite people.
President.
Sir?
Let me just shed some light on what the mayor was just talking about. The issue, as contractors, we have historical data that we use. Each year, there's hundreds of bids that happen in a year. And the construction varies, the design, the type of construction varies, but it's pretty much all the same here down south. You either have a block building, you have a metal building, you have a stucco building, you have a steel frame building. So it just varies on the owner's preference of what type of building they prefer. Okay? So you have a range each year of square foot price. So when you, as an owner, sets a budget for each project that you're allocating for that year, you typically want to go with historical data for the previous year and say, okay, all the bids were coming in between $175 and $200 a square foot. So you want to budget for a little bit more than that, because typically the next year you're going to see an increase, either 10, 15%, just depending on the supplies, depending on the materials, and so on and so forth. So you want to be able to increase that budget a little so you can offset any increases in material costs. Now, you have other buildings that are anomaly. You go and you bid a job, and they come out from the 175 to 200 range that it was the previous year. In that year, there's one that comes in at $250, $275 a square foot, and you're like, wow, why is that building $100 more than all the other buildings, and it's within the same year? That's where you get those Monday morning quarterbacks saying, well, I could have built this building for $175. Why did this guy build it for $275 if the market was at $175 to $200? That's where you see the discrepancies. And just like our Viper facility or wellness center, that building was built back in 2015, and that building was built for $225 a square foot. Back in 2015, the number of it was at about $125 to $135 a square foot back in 2015. That's what the square foot price was going at. And you go in there, and everybody's been in there, you go in there, and you have sound problems, you have logistics problems, you have all sorts of problems, but yet it costs $225 per foot. So, those are the ones that I would say I could build that for $145 back in 2015. So just to let you understand that there's anomalies back in our construction industry, and those are the things that just happen because they're happening for whatever reason. And all I can tell you is that right now the budget is between 200 and 225, depending on the construction type. And I would hate for us to do anything lower than that, because it's going to come out that it's going to be that amount, and then we're going to look like, okay, what are we going to do? I would hate for that to happen. It just doesn't make good sense to do it. And I know that we as a council and as a board, we're trying to do what's best for our citizens, so they can utilize this facility and they can feel proud of the facility, and they can feel like, hey, the city council and the board are doing good for our citizens and our students and our kids. So
Everybody likes this project in the community.
Yeah.
The ones that know, they think
I'm
it's a
gonna-
great idea, so it's just us trying to do it right.
Project's gonna happen, we just need to find out
Right.
how we open our bottle of champagne on June 1.
I'm gonna say pretty easy.
Make it happen.
We're gonna make it happen somehow. Okay, Mayor, as Mr. Rodriguez says, we need to make sure the naysayers, we're gonna get criticism left and right. Okay, how come you didn't put it on this corner? Well, we're gonna have an answer for that. How come you only did 3? Well, because we could only afford 3. How come you did this? Because we went through the process. We're not gonna let anybody dictate, because my response to most people that say, I could have done it for less, but where were you? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. But invariably, it happens more often than not. Our job is to try to, if we know of somebody out there, invite them to the table and bring them to the reality of what is needed and wanted. They're welcome to bid on anything. Nobody's going to be excluded. But at that point, if they give a high number, we could always say, where were you?
Right.
We had a situation years ago. We did a little gymnasium for Sister here at, I think it's Sacred Heart. And a contractor said, I could do it for a lot less. We put it through the bidding process, and he was 6th on the list. He had the same opportunity as the other guys. Okay.
Mr. President, I just want to assure the board that we'll remain transparent through this whole process and update the board as we go and make sure that, we use our media to encourage, contractors to come in and during the construction phases, all that, and keep a good record of that.
I think we need to set up a meeting as soon as possible with Coach Garza
Yes.
and Mr. Trevino, so you can get those things ironed out, some of the ideas he has. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Mr. President, tomorrow we have the same type of meeting with the next project on the resource center, and then the following day with the Capable Kids project. So I appreciate y'all coming here at noon.
Appreciate your time, Mr. Vela. Staff, thank you. Joey, thank you for setting it up, and we'll see you all tomorrow again. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes. We adjourn. The time is 1:07 p.m. Thank you. I'll sit in with you guys. This week, Thursday or Friday. Let's get them out. Let's pop them out.
Crazy, right? I just want to make sure that the little I thought, okay, that is
Like a gymnasium?
no, but it's over here.
Okay, we could put it under.
You know, if you could just put it in here, just for changing purposes.
What, that's the, is such intended con lo van a un empleo.
Okay.
That's really,
Yeah, but see, here's the limit,
but it's way over here.
I would most likely have wanted to do it.
Is this, right, I was gonna say, we're gonna leave it anyway, right? So we can just leave what wasn't used, somebody's glasses, who was in this corner?
Oh, those are yours.
These are Torres.
No,
Oh,
those
these are Jones, sorry.
yeah, he lent them to me. He was very nice.
Yeah, we'll get together and then.
Sandwich, up here?